Good evening, all. This is a meeting of the Board of Assessors, November 6th, Wednesday, 4 p.m. here in a conference room at the first floor of the Town Hall. Ask for a motion to open the meeting.
Motion to open.
Second. And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, first order of business this evening is just to approve the minutes, open session, meeting date, October 9th, 2024. I think everybody had a chance to read them back in the office.
Yep.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. As you know, we have the classification meeting this evening with the selectmen. I'm just going to turn the open session over to Kelly so she can walk us through that and go over some of these splits with us, and we'll move on from there.
Okay. Just as a review, in FY 2024, the ratified split was 35%, and the tax rates were $11.41 and $16.31 per thousand, and the total value of the town was $1.8 million. This year, if we look at it parallel to what they ratified in 2024, if they pick a 35% shift, you're looking at the tax rates going for residential from $11.41 to $10.83, and the commercial industrial personal property going from $16.31 to $15.27. However, that's the tax rates. Usually it's an opposite relationships. When tax rates tend to go down, that means there's been an increase of value. And if you look at the bottom, it sorts them out by class, and it looks like the residential class went up about 9%. And it holds 89% of the value of the town. The commercial and industrial went up 7 and 8, and they hold 4% of the town's value, and personal property went up 4%, holding 7% of the town's value, for the full value being 22, where am I? Hello. I lost my close, yeah, it's 2 billion of some sort. Sorry, I lost my track. But anyway, so that's what we're looking at. I don't know what the board wants to decide in respect to giving the recommendation to the selectmen. Usually past practices, the Board of Assessors tends to give the recommendation of less than 35%. Historically, prior to 2024, usually the ratification has been around 25%, and the Board of Assessors recommend about 20%. Historically, that's how it's been through the years. However, obviously each year is different, each scenario is different, so I give it back to the board.
I did say the same thing last year. You know, back my first time around on the Board of Assessors over 20 years ago, I was always astonished, you know, there's no reason to split the tax rate and just keep it even and everybody pays their share. When you go up on the business, it's all local businesses that the same people in town use. So the cost is just carried over to them through expenses in another way. Whether you're going to a restaurant or the gas station or whatever, they just mark up in order to cover for it. So I never felt it was right to have the tax shift. In recent years, where property values on homes has risen far faster than the values on businesses, I see where the selectmen have been, you know, increasing it. I obviously, my own opinion is to, you know, not go any higher than the 135. I think that's max. I think you could go all the way down to a flat tax rate, and the rate wouldn't go up. However, we know that the values went up by 9%, so the bills are going to go up by 9%. So, I mean, again, I've been to enough of these meetings with the selectmen to know that they're going to do their own thing. Our opinion here doesn't carry a whole lot of weight, but it's up to you guys.
What's the difference between 135 and 100%? What's the revenue difference would be?
What do you mean revenue difference?
For business, how much, if they were at 100% versus the 135?
It would be the difference of the tax rate in dollars per $1,000 of value.
Do we have a total? Like,
I'm not sure what you're asking.
What business, how much is the business bringing in?
Oh, tax, Yes, we do. If you look, I do have that.
The whole thing is 10%, between everything non-residential.
Correct.
Because residential is 89%. The other 11% is the commercial, the industrial, and the personal property. And is the personal property part of that tax shift? No,
No,
right?
I think, well, it is, because the shift does go to personal property.
It does go to personal
Yes,
property.
it goes
Okay.
to all
I wasn't
classes.
sure on that.
Now, for your question, Lee, in regards to the dispersion of the levy, is that what you're asking? It is a single rate for a levy of, what we had determined was gonna be the 22,858,743. For no shift, single tax rate, the levy amount by class for residential would be $20,358,659, commercial $483,074, for industrial $444,923, and for personal property $1.5 million roughly. Now, if we compare that and we change the shift to 35, the levy amount allocation would go as follows. For the 135, the residentials would have the burden of $19,483,631, commercial $652,150, industrial $600,645, and personal property $2.1 million. Is that what you were asking? Okay, good.
So do we put a bigger hand on the residential by doing this flat rate?
Absolutely,
Correct.
absolutely. The allocation is the burden of taxation on the class. So by shifting it, you're shifting it from the residential taxpayer to the other classes.
For years, it was a flat rate. Then for a long time, it went up to like 115, and then it went to 125, and now we're at 135. So every year, as the property values on the housing rises, we shift more of the burden to the businesses. So, again, I strongly disadvise against going more than the 135. I believe, in my thoughts, that that's probably what the selectmen are gonna do, is carry on and keep the 135. I'm not saying I'm dead set against that, I just don't wanna see it go the other way. So, in my head, I like to say 120, 125 should be the max, and they go to 135, and it kinda stays where it is. Whereas if we join and say, yeah, 135 is fine, and they say, well, now we want 140 this year. I just,
No, definitely creeping up.
and it does, it puts the shift. What it does when you do that and you change that small percentage is you add that 40% to only 10% of the population.
Correct.
And it's the dollar amount, so you're taking, an extra 40% of the valuation and dumping it on 10% of the people. It goes up drastically.
The allocation of
Now to go
that.
backwards, now you're dumping more on the resident, and it makes
Correct.
it harder.
The optics,
At a
optics of that.
very much less burden, because it's spread out over 89% of the people instead of 11, but I get it, we don't wanna go up on them either.
Right.
And they're receiving a 9% versus 7. So if you leave it the same or just creep down to 125%, then you didn't really hurt anybody.
So I'll make a recommendation of 125. 120.
It's up to you.
I'll go 120.
It sounds like your motion.
Yeah, my motion, I'll make a motion for 120.
Do you want more input in this? Do you, more discussion before a second or anything, or, I mean, I'm in favor of the 120 with you, I'll second the motion. So, let's vote on it.
Yep.
All in favor?
All in favor.
So
The Board of
unanimously.
Assessors unanimously voted for a tax shift of 120%.
Okay. Very good.
A slight decrease over what we've seen in the past, but an increase or the same as pretty much where we've always stood
Correct.
as a Board of Assessors.
Okay. Very good. Now, the next topic is the timeline of the FY 2025 recap. The assessor side, or the value side, is complete. It's been complete since the beginning of October. Now, the other piece of the puzzle is the accounting side, and we've had some staffing issues in that department, and we're really behind in our timeline as to getting a certified tax rate. I can't stress the importance of having a certified tax rate in order to get the bills out timely, at least by the beginning of December. That's a month away, and that's really pushing the issue. And I don't foresee, nor have I been told, that this timeline is going to be kept. With that being said, I really don't know what the intent of the selectmen and the finance department are, but this is where we're at right now.
I have a question on that. As you said, we've got all of our homework done and everything we can do. We still don't have a certified tax rate. Does it even make sense to be, talking about classification?
It is, we're talking about classification, it probably won't be ratified today by the Board of Selectmen. What I presented to you and what I'm going to present to the Board of Selectmen is the worst scenario, the maximum levy.
Okay.
So if anything, when it comes said and done and all the numbers are finalized, the tax rates will actually be lessened, because it'll be less of a tax levy again.
So
This is the worst scenario.
Okay, got it.
Max levy. So,
We are talking about tax
correct.
amounts here, tax dollars, and if
Tax
it's not
dollars.
certified, it can change.
Absolutely.
Right now, you're thinking this would be the high end.
It is the high end. It's absolutely the high end. This is the maximum capacity levy that would be allowed by the DOR.
Because it's 3.5% over last year with new growth.
You got it.
Got it. Understood.
Okay?
How much time do you need once they get their end done?
Well, the process is that once they get a tax rate set, then you gotta do the process in the financials of software to get the bills out. It never goes perfect. It can be quite a detailed process, and if there's anything that comes in that throws it into a whirlwind, then it stops the production, and then the billing company needs a week to produce those paper bills. So it's like, we're down to the 11th hour, we're definitely gonna be bottlenecking. I'd say by the end of November, honestly, or the first week of December, if the recap has been submitted, it's a bad thing, because it's gonna be submitted, reviewed, then approved. So we're in a really tight situation right now. Again, I don't know what the intent of the town is to actually get this done timely. I know they're working on it, but it's a little bit late at this point in the game, in my opinion. But this, again, in my opinion. So that I just wanted to make the board very clear on that, it wouldn't be, for the responsibility or the lack thereof of the process getting done, hopefully would not fall upon this group. Okay? We received a letter of resignation from the senior clerk, Renee Langlois, and we are now posting for the position again in the assessor's office. It will go out to be advertised. The internal posting deadline has already passed. It will go out to be advertised, and then we'll be contacting potential candidates who are interested to come in to be interviewed.
Just so that the general public knows what's going on here. People probably think we just got a new one, and why are we posting this position? But basically, the new hire we had for this position showed up for a couple of days, and then there was issues, and then we got a letter of resignation. So we really haven't even filled that seat. Kelly didn't even get to really train a new person yet, so we're right back to square one where we were 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and trying to get this seat filled so we can get the job done.
Correct.
And as Kelly said, we listed it in-house, and we're back to listing it with the general public. So this is a 35-hour position for a senior clerk in the assessor's office, and the applicant, or I don't know quite how to say it, but the word's out that we're looking for applications. So
Correct.
seeking someone to fill this position.
Correct. Now, this, it's an add-on, but the accessory dwelling unit, we received, it was part of your packets. I guess there's going to be a consideration of a bylaw for the accessory dwelling unit, because there's new state laws. This might be more under your purview, and you know a lot about that, Bob. But the town planner did provide this to us and would like some feedback after reading it. My input is, in regards to the accessory dwelling units, this becomes not an issue, but something to think about as assessors in how they're going to be categorized. In other words, if it's an in-law or an accessory dwelling unit currently, I do not make it a multifamily, because the rule of thumb is if it is an in-law or an accessory apartment, it's not supposed to be obtain rental income. And one of the purposes of intent, number one, is to obtain rental income. Now that, to me, changes it to a two-family. Not that it changes, the tax rate stays the same, it's still a residential class, but as we tally each group, it changes it. And if that's the case, then I think this opens the floodgates to many, many more accessory dwelling units in the town. Again.
And again, they can do what they want with this bylaw, but it's not an option. The state has said, this is what you're gonna eat, swallow it.
I see.
Everybody can have a 900 square foot ADU, period, so long as they meet the rest of the requirements of zoning. So you still have to be, meet your setbacks, 25, 20, 15. You still have to have, if you're in an area with septic, you still have to meet your bedrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but basically as a town, we always said we didn't want two dwellings on one property. And the state has said, everybody can have two dwellings on one property.
Right.
That issue isn't, so now, again, you still have impervious surface, you still have maximum lot coverage. There's a lot of laws that say you can't fill your whole lot with homes, but we had one that said one dwelling unit per property. And the state has said, no, everybody can have two. The second one can be up to 900 square feet or 50% of the size of your home. So if you have a 2,500 square foot home, your ADU can be 1,250 feet, not 900.
And can it be a separate building?
All separate buildings. That's the
Okay,
thing.
it's not attached.
This is an accessory dwelling unit. It doesn't have to be attached to your.
I see, I didn't
your
know
home.
that, okay.
It's an entirely different structure. It's just on the same lot as your home. And again, this has nothing to do with Acushnet. This is all, I think it's 252 cities and towns in the state.
300.
And it is what it is. So I think they're probably gonna put this in just so it's written and people can understand it as part of our language versus having to go to the state. But the state, with this new law, is saying that the towns cannot stop it. I do believe that you're probably gonna see lawsuits and other stuff arise from it because as much as I think a lot of us would like to have this, it's not great for the cities and towns. That's why the bylaw is what it is, because potentially you'll have twice as many dwelling units in the town. It has that kind of effect. And it won't, because again, there's plenty of houses that are already oversized on, they don't have the room for,
To build something
for more.
else, right.
But for everything that we've done over the past 15 to 20 years, changing lot sizes from 30 to 45 to 60,000 square feet, well, now every 60,000 square foot lot is automatically two 30,000 square foot lots, because there's enough for septic and setbacks and all that, because all the developments that are already out there with 30,000 square feet, there's
the
plenty of
retreat
room.
lots, too.
So,
And the retreats, too.
Retreat lots aren't really, they can be affected, but again, you still have 75-foot setbacks.
I see.
So most retreat lots, they end up building the house right in the middle of the lot.
Correct.
And it doesn't mean they can't build another one right next to it in the center of the lot, but they can't necessarily put one in the front yard or the back because of that 75-foot setback.
Okay.
But it does, and I agree with you, I think it probably would be classed at that. I don't even think it would be a two-family. I think
This would be a
would
109, it'd be two structures,
two
one
structures,
property.
one property.
Right.
Just like.
That's why I asked that question, I was unsure. I thought it would have to be attached,
No.
so I was thinking something else.
And I think that would be the difference in how you do it.
Correct.
Because people can now do the regular in-law apartments that they want.
Correct.
Attached, and
Right.
they're not stuck to one quarter. That's the big difference in what we've always had accessory apartments in town, but the limit is 25% of the original house, and now it's 50. So it does lead people to, that want to have an in-law apartment. A lot of people want an in-law apartment around 800 square feet, 900 square feet, and they couldn't do it because they only had 1,500 square feet to begin with.
So
Or even if they had 2,000, they could only do 500.
Right.
Now, they can easily, put the in-law apartments they want. So I do think you're gonna see more attached, but I also think on all of the 30, and especially the 45 and 60,000 square foot lots, a lot of people coming in to put homes in their backyards for their kids and parents, and rentals.
With the rental, see, the litmus test for assessors is if it can be rented for profit, it's a multi.
Yep.
So that's where I'll really have to, know the use of that accessory.
But it's a multi if it's a single unit. If it's a rental, but it's a separate unit, then it's two.
It's two dwellings,
on one unit.
Yeah, exactly. Two dwellings, one parcel.
But you're only
Yes,
allowed one bedroom per unit.
correct. That's what the
Yes.
law says. I just wanted, she had provided it to us. I know you're very versed in this, Bob, so I wanted to let the assessors know if we wanted to give some feedback.
I actually sat down with the building inspector last week to try to find out if we were on the same page.
Okay.
Because I had someone approach me, and they already have an existing foundation, so they just put a two-story on it, and it was 1,100 square feet. And I said, I believe your house is only around 1,500 square feet, so you can't have 11, you can only have 9. And he did say that that's the way he sees it as well.
Okay.
And that there is a little discrepancy on whether this is absolute today, or if this comes into effect in like February. The state said that it was official the day she signed it.
Oh, okay.
Cities and towns are saying, well, you can't do that, it has to go to the next, I don't know exactly what it is, administration or something,
Okay.
or whatever, so, I guess there's questions on whether or not these are out now or that, but I have heard that permits are already being issued for them
Okay.
in other cities and towns.
Okay, but that being said, I'm curious why they would need a local bylaw then.
I don't think they do.
I see.
think they're just trying to put it in our bylaw so that it's easy for everyone to
I
understand and read.
understand. Okay,
We're following the state guidelines saying, we'll do what you say, but we're putting it in our book.
Local bylaw.
So that way, when people know what they can and can't do.
Right.
Without having to look up state laws.
I understand. Okay, thank you. That clarified it for me a little bit too. All right, so basically, I will let Victoria, the planner, know that it's been discussed and that you've actually touched base with Andy as well, so the assessors are well aware of what's going to be going on moving forward. Also, there is, I didn't want to make a copy of all this, but this is a site plan for a special permit for a solar project at 211 Middle Road. This project is going to encompass land in Acushnet and New Bedford. It's just in the special permit phase, that it's not been issued yet. Be more than glad to go through this happy reading if you'd like, but I just wanted to throw it out there to you because the planning board was looking for some input if we had any.
I think leave it in the office for everybody to read at their leisure.
Absolutely.
And I respect the planning board, and we can give them our personal thoughts on it, but we don't really have
We don't have, I mean, it's an opinion,
Yeah.
that's all it is. It doesn't, it can't change anything.
It's,
Okay, and of course, I don't have my phone, but the next meeting date, is anyone I'm looking for the first Wednesday in December, if everybody's all right with that? Or-
Yes, first one.
So that would be December 4th.
Sounds good. At 4
At
PM.
4.
Okay.
Is everyone all right with that?
That's fine.
Okay. Now,
We do have some personal exemptions and some chapter applications to go through, so we do have to go into executive session to discuss that. So, if there's-
I'll make a motion.
Well, if there's no more regular
No, I
business,
don't have business in regular session.
then I would entertain a motion to adjourn regular session and go into executive session. We will reconvene regular session
To accept the vote.
accept the vote on these personal exemptions and the other applications.
I'll make that motion.
Motion and a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now in executive session. We have concluded our business in executive session and have reopened the meeting in open session. And just to go over what we've voted on, I'm going to turn the floor back over to Kelly to read through it.
For the FY 2025 personal exemptions, Clause 41C1, Clause 17D1, Clause 22, lowercase a1. For fiscal 2026, Chapter 61A or 61B applications, 61A, we had none, 61B, there were 4, and there were 2 rights of refusal recommendations for chapter properties. One is a portion of MAP 3, Lot 16D, MAP 3, Lot 1, and the Board of Assessors is going to recommend to the selectmen to forego their right of first option. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Without any further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We are adjourned.